How vets finally stopped writing abdominal scan NAD, the journey to speeds and FOVU report. If you've ever finished an ultrasound scan, looked at the empty notes box, sighed and typed abdominal scan NAD, this video is for you. Because today we're going to talk about why ultrasound reporting has always been such a huge problem in first opinion practice, what I've learned over the years trying to fix it, and how that journey eventually led to the SPEEDS framework and the creation of FOVU Report. By the end of this video, you'll be able to see ultrasound reporting in a completely different light. And if you want to try the system I've built to help first opinion vets write confident structured reports, you can dive straight into a free trial of FOVU Report after this. So let's get started. If ultrasound makes you feel slightly tense, even before the probe is in your hand, I want you to know something before we go any further. That feeling doesn't mean you're bad at ultrasound. It usually means you care deeply about doing things properly and you don't feel supported at the exact moment you're expected to perform. If that resonates, this video is for you. Because today I'm not just going to talk about ultrasound reporting, I'm going to talk about why so many capable, thoughtful first opinion vets quietly lose trust in themselves around ultrasound and how we can change that without pretending confidence we don't feel yet. The quiet, emotional reality of ultrasound. Most of the vets I work with would describe themselves as conscientious, careful, responsible. They manage complex cases every day. They make good decisions under pressure. But ultrasound feels different. It feels exposed. There's a particular tension that appears when ultrasound is mentioned in case discussion. A tightening in the chest, a moment of internal calculation. Do I speak up? Do I suggest it? Do I avoid it? And often avoidance wins, not because ultrasound wouldn't help, but because it feels safer to choose the option where your competence won't be silently judged. Later, that decision lingers. You see a referral letter go out for that case. You read a sparse note in the record, and there's that familiar thought, I should be better at this by now. Other people are. That sentence comes up again and again, not loudly, but persistently in the back of your head. This is where abdominal scan NAD enters the story. So nothing abnormal detected. Why ultrasound reporting has been historically so hard. When I worked in practice, I always paid attention to how colleagues wrote their notes. Not just ultrasound notes, all notes. Some people wrote a direct live stream of their thoughts, and if you were the next vet opening the record, you had to dig through paragraphs just to work out what the owner was actually worried about. Now, usually in that case, people are over worried about missing something in their notes, and they really want to get everything down. But it does make it hard to find the important stuff. Others wrote so little that you have no idea what had been discussed or what the next step was meant to be. Again, this can be a confidence thing because where they don't want to write something sounding overconfident about what they've found. This same pattern happened in ultrasound. In most practices, ultrasound reporting fell into one of two camps. Either a long, unstructured description that was hard to follow and even harder to use in a future consultation, but far more commonly we had the opposite extreme, just a few words. Often, abdominal scan, NAD. Now here's the funny thing, NAD, nothing abnormal detected, wasn't wrong. Most of the times, no abnormalities were detected, but this didn't answer the questions that really mattered. We didn't know what organs had been scanned, what hadn't, what was visualized, why were organs not visualized, how confident was the person scanning, did they perform a full systematic exam or did they sweep over things quickly because they weren't sure what they were looking at, and what assumptions did they make that the next vet would now inherit. Even when I wrote NAD myself, which I confess I have done, especially early on, when time was tight and confidence was shaky, I knew it didn't reflect the thinking I'd actually done. It just reflected the part I didn't know how to put into words. And all this leads to the same outcome. Poor reporting makes vets feel like they are bad at ultrasound. Poor reporting makes colleagues undervalue ultrasound, and particularly bosses undervalue ultrasound. And poor reporting dilutes the value of the scan for the client, who wonders why they're paid 180 quid for not much. So if you've ever looked at your ultrasound notes and felt embarrassed, or you've tried to hand over a case and found yourself saying things like, I think it was fine, or I didn't see anything obvious, you're not alone. Every vet I've ever taught over the past decade has been through this. And for years, I thought the problem was documentation. But actually, the problem is much deeper than that. Why abdominal scan NAD isn't laziness. I want to be very clear about this. Most vets don't write abdominal scan NAD because they don't care. They write it because they don't know how to safely show their thinking without exposing themselves. NAD becomes a form of protection. It avoids overclaiming. It avoids scrutiny. It avoids the risk that someone else might read your report and wonder whether you really knew what you were doing. But it comes at a cost. Because every time you reduce a thoughtful diagnostic process to these letters, it quietly reinforces the idea that your skill is fragile, replaceable, uncertain, unconfident. And over time, that erodes trust, not just from colleagues, but within yourself. My own frustration with this system. When I was in general practice, and later when I started my peripatetic work, I saw this pattern everywhere, including in myself. I tried to fix it the obvious ways first: templates, Word documents, lists of organs I could tick off. Then I built more complicated systems, Excel sheets which fed into Word reports, and automated measurements and clever workarounds. They helped with the speed of writing the reports, but they didn't solve the real problem, particularly when it came to me helping others to write reports. The problem was never typing. The problem was that vets didn't have a safe way to think in real time, especially when they weren't confident yet. Specialist software didn't solve it either. Those systems assume you already know what you're looking at, that you're already really confident with ultrasound, and they jump straight to conclusions without helping you work out how you got there or help you make templates yourself, which isn't what you need when you're not confident. And that's when I realized something important. My early attempts to fix the problem. Before Speeds, before FOVU Report, before all of this, I tried every possible workaround. Back in 2018, when I started my peripatetic work, my first idea was, fine, I'll make a better template. So I built a Word document, a simple list of structures: liver, gallbladder, spleen, GI tract, kidneys, bladder, which I could follow with something like visualized NAD and a bullet point if something was abnormal. That was definitely better than nothing, but it still wasn't thinking. It didn't tell anyone how I'd assess those organs, and it didn't help someone who wasn't confident. So then I went further. In 2020, I built this Frankenstein monster of a system that combined an Excel sheet with an auto-populating Word document. I could enter measurements into Excel. It would put these values into the report. I had a drop-down system in Excel. And when it worked, it felt brilliant and it sped things up delightfully. When it didn't, it taught me many lessons in patience. But even these systems relied on me doing all the interpretation. They were fast typing tools, not thinking tools. Eventually, I tried specialist level software, and these systems worked well. They were powerful, detailed, and fast, but they assumed that the user had a confident level and understanding of ultrasound. They are not built for the general practice vet who is still learning to find the left adrenal gland. They don't teach, they don't guide, they don't help you think. And this is where things started to finally click. The real problem Vets don't struggle with reporting, they struggle with thinking. This realization came during our 5-day challenges, where hundreds of vets would join to work through scan technique and clinical reasoning. A pattern became really obvious. Most vets weren't struggling with writing things down. They were struggling with the mental model they were using during the scan. They scanned the liver, saw something that looked a bit off, panicked because they didn't know whether it mattered, and then stopped trusting their own judgment. And this is such a deeply human thing. When we don't have language to describe something, we lose confidence in what we're seeing. When we don't have a framework to follow, our brain jumps straight to diagnosis. And when we can't articulate what's normal and what's not, we default back to NAD because it feels safe. So the problem wasn't the reporting, the problem was the thinking. And that's what led to SPEEDs. And actually, usually the most popular part of our 5-day challenges. The birth of SPEEDs. I needed a way of turning that vague, uncomfortable feeling of something looks wrong but I can't say why into a structured thought process. So I started breaking down how I approached an organ. What am I looking at first? What do I compare it to? What makes me say something is normal? How do I describe something abnormal without leaping straight to thinking about diagnosis? Eventually, this became the SPEEDs framework. And if you've ever been on a 5-day challenge with me, you'll know that this is the part people latch onto instantly. Because SPEEDs takes you through every organ, every lesion, every finding, every time. It takes you through a framework where we look at the size, shape, position, echogenicity and echotexture, the edge, the dynamics, distribution and sampling for every organ and every lesion that we find. It builds confidence through clarity, but there's still a problem. Vets loved SPEEDs on paper, but remembering it in the middle of a busy day, keeping track of all the parameters, turning it into coherent notes, that was another leap, really. It's still hard. So the next step for me was obvious. If the thinking framework works, then we build the framework into the reporting tool itself. The development of FOVU Report. In early 2024, I stopped tinkering with sheets and templates and committed to building the software tool I had wanted for years. FOVU Report is not specialist software. It's not designed to impress a referral centre. It's designed to teach and guide the first opinion vet who wants to feel confident, who wants to write good reports which reflect what they're seeing, which wants the work to be their own. Let me walk you through what happens inside the software, because this is where all the pieces come together. When you create a report, the system starts by asking you which type of scan you're doing, abdominal or echocardiography. Then you enter the patient details. Based on these details, the software automatically shows you only the organs relevant to that patient. So, for example, ovaries appear only if you're scanning an entire female. That instantly reduces your overwhelm. As you begin the findings section, you're asked simply, did you image this organ, yes or no? If you didn't, that's fine. You mark it as not assessed, and that becomes a transparent part of your report. You can also add in the editing step why you didn't assess that. Perhaps there was gas blocking your view, or you're just not confident seeing that organ. If you did see the organ, that's where the magic happens. If you look at an organ and think, yes, that looks normal, you confirm that and the system generates a clean, fully editable normal summary for you. If you're not sure or something looks abnormal, you click through and the SPEEDs framework opens up as structured questions. What was the size like? What was the echogenicity? How were the margins? Were lesions focal or multifocal? What distribution did you see? If you're stuck, you can watch a short video on pathology examples. If you've forgotten how to scan a particular organ, there's a quick technique refresher right there beside it. It's like having a mentor over your shoulder saying, let me help you describe what you're seeing. For organs like the kidneys, you can enter the measurement and the software instantly compares it to body weight and species-specific norms, so you never have to look anything up. And as you work your way through the scan, you're answering clear questions step by step. By the time you finish the organ list and move into the summary section, the software has already assembled a clear finding summary for each structure. And the conclusion, which vets always tell me is the hardest part, is auto-generated. It summarizes your key findings, suggests likely differentials where appropriate, and highlights any pathognomic signs. It also suggests next steps for the patient if that's appropriate. You can edit any of this wording if you like, but the thinking is already supported. Finally, you click to email or print the PDF, complete with your practice logo, email it to your PMS system or your admin. And I really love what this demo ends on because it sums up the purpose so well. This isn't just admin, this is your clinical thinking, clearly communicated. It reflects the care you gave this patient and the skill behind the scan. And that is exactly why I have built it. Here's what happens when you stop writing NAD and start writing structured, thoughtful reports. You begin to trust your own skills. You see the depth of your thinking reflected back to you. Colleagues begin to trust your scans more. Clients finally understand the value of what you've done. Bosses give you more time to write reports, and your entire practice begins to raise the perceived value of ultrasound. You move from person with an ultrasound machine to clinician with a diagnostic framework. And if you've ever wanted to feel proud of your ultrasound work, genuinely proud, this will get you there. So, if you want to try FOVU Report completely free, no need to add credit card details. If you want to experience speeds in action, built directly into a tool that guides you, supports you, and helps you produce reports that you can stand behind and feel proud about, you can start your free trial of FOVU Report today. So you can jump straight into the software and experience the full guided workflow. If you've been putting off working on your reporting because it feels too big, too stressful, or too unclear, this is the easiest place to start. Just click the link below, create your account, and try your first report. I think you'll be amazed at how different it feels. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see the reports that you create.